A woman and her boyfriend of 3 years went to the civil affairs office to register their marriage but was told by the staff that she already had a husband in the eyes of the law. The woman said, "This is impossible, I have never been married, you must have entered the wrong name," but the staff again to confirm that the woman has been married to a man named Sullivan. In order to find out who her husband was, the woman calmed her boyfriend down and then followed an address given by the worker to a place in Queens full of Indians. The woman guided her to a bar where she met Sullivan, who was playing billiards. After a brief introduction, she was about to tell him why she was here, but he didn't give her a chance to talk and just handed her a cue stick. In her opinion, she would somehow get married with the person in front of her must be the Civil Affairs Bureau system problems. So the attitude of the performance of the immense humility after all. He also asked Sullivan to do things. She is not good to hold a frame of mind, but it is also this mentality that led to the Sullivans several times to bring the drink to her in front of her. She was difficult to drink a drink. Soon Emma was drunk and began to talk to the men in the bar. It turned out that the reason Emma had a legal husband was because Sullivan was behind it, and Sullivan was just trying to do to her what he had done to her. Not so long ago, Sullivan had a girlfriend who loved him, and although they had a few conflicts in their lives, they weren't enough to shake their relationship. But that all changed when an emotional program hosted by Emma came on the air. Sullivan's girlfriend repeatedly asked Emma for advice on her feelings, and Emma sat in the studio and pointed out the concept of love to the two men, and then even persuaded Sullivan's girlfriend to break up with her boyfriend. Coincidentally, Sullivan, who had just finished playing soccer with his friends, heard all these words through the radio in his car. I believe we can all guess what happened after that. The girlfriend followed the advice of the so-called emotional counselor to break up with Sullivan. Knowing that this is all because of Emma's instigation, Sullivan was infuriated. So he asked his downstairs hacker neighbor to help him break into the system of the Civil Affairs Bureau and secretly change the registration information. And then there is the beginning of the scene. Emma was very drunk but still managed to hold on to her consciousness and took out a thick pile of divorce papers and humbly requested that I would like you to sign these and then go with me to the notary public to get a notary to seal them. Without waiting for Sullivan's reply, she lost consciousness and hit her head on the table and fell into a deep sleep. Despite his deep-seated hatred for the woman who had caused him to lose his girlfriend, Sullivan held the line and did nothing out of the ordinary. Time turned to the next day. By the sunshine shouted to wake up Emma, looked at the surroundings, immediately panicked and got up to pick up his coat and hurriedly fled this strange place with the fastest speed to take the subway back to the company. Emma just arrived at the post-fiancé's phone call to ask what happened yesterday. It turns out that Sullivan last night secretly set her cell phone into the flight mode. While Emma was explaining to him, her cell phone, which had been removed from airplane mode on the way here, rang, and the caller was Sullivan, who had come to ask about her health. Emma answered the phone back and forth between the two calls and learned from Sullivan what had happened last night, that her heart finally dropped while Emma swore to her fiancé with a strong sense of confidence. After finishing her phone call with him, she called Sullivan's number back to ask if he had signed the agreements and said that she had a book signing in 2 hours and that he would send his assistant to pick it up later if he was late. But the very next second after those words were spoken,